Welcome back. But first, here is your news in brief. We begin in Anambra, where the Southeast Zonal Vice Chairman of the People's Democratic Party, Mr. Austin Umahi, has tasked the members of the party in the state on unity, while charging them to use their numerical strength to capture the seat of power come 2021. Now, Mr. Umahi is speaking during the PDP stakeholders meeting in Oka, which pulls party faithful from the 21 local government areas of the state. The Oyo State Governorship Election Petition Tribunal sitting in Ibadan has affirmed the electoral victory of Governor Seyi Makinde of the PDP as the validly elected governor of Oyo State in a unanimous judgment delivered by Justice Sirajo Mohammed, who led other judges. The petition filed by the APC and Mr. Bayo Adelabu was thrown out for lack of merit at the tribunal sitting in Ibadan. The APC candidate in the March 9th election, Mr. Adelabu, had approached the tribunal on the 29th of March seeking to overturn the victory of Mr. Seyi Makinde in the governorship election. Elsewhere, the governorship candidate of the Allied People's Movement, APM, in the last governorship election in Ogun State, Abdulkadir Akinlade, has said that he might appeal the judgment of the governorship election petition tribunal, which upheld the victory of the state governor, Mr. Dakwa Abiodun, at the tribunal. He said this while addressing party officials and supporters at the party secretariat along Abiola Way in Abeokuta, the state capital. He said the judgment does not represent the petition that he brought before the governorship tribunal. We continue with our discussions on the president's economic team, and we've been talking to our guests in Abuja. Of course, we have Mr. Ike Chikelue, engineer, a political analyst, Mr. Kaj Ononuju, an economist, member of the People's Democratic Party, and here in our Lagos studio, and Mr. Buka Kiari, former chairman, Nigeria Economic Summit Group. Just to wrap up this conversation, I'll begin with you, Mr. Kiari, and that is your expectations moving forward for the group for Nigeria's economic growth.
My expectations for the group are quite simple. They are well-renowned. They would actually make proper and sound recommendations. Now, the other part of the equation is that the person being advised ought to take those advice into consideration when it comes to economic matters. Therefore, I would enjoin the presidency to take into heart some of these advices. Even if short-term we may go through some hard and difficult choices, we need to do that as a nation.
Mr. Kachunonuju, your final thoughts?
Yes, we should look at those things that have undermined us this past 4 years. Especially, I will enjoin them to look towards removing the government's sustained presence in the energy markets, which I consider to be a distortion of the market, which is what we all call popularly as the subsidy. Remove the subsidy and then try to use that money to commit to a lot of capital development in building roads and bringing advantages to the people. Then create policies that will allow the private sector to drive economic growth as opposed to government trying to do everything. This is why I have been against the government's sustained attempt to take us back to the days of the old when it's always government trying to instrument economic and political outcomes. No, let it be the private sector that is primed to drive economic growth. And I think this current team does know what it is. I'm happy that they're not correctly...
Thank you, Mr. Katch Ononuju. Engineer Chidolo, you have the final words, the final floor.
All right. You know, what I expect to see happen, because we all know their track record, I expect them to equally look at some of the programs that the government has set up to de-risk investments like in Israel. So we expect them, advise government to take some money from the foreign reserve, set aside, block $2 billion, break it up into $500 million and say, guarantee people, if you're going to build fertilizer blending plants, we're guaranteeing $500 million in purchase. Let the foreign companies and local companies compete just like they're doing in the bulk trader for power. Set out monies, let federal government guarantee, because they are the greatest customers for this kind of things. Right. Federal government take out $2-3 billion from our foreign reserve. I think we have about 44 billion or 48 billion. Set 2 or 3 billion there, block it out, and let companies, this is how you can 25, 30, 40,
We'd like to
50,000
thank you.
employments. But
Thank you
there
so
has to
much,
be those
our
kind of
guest in
concerted
Abuja,
effort.
and thank you also, Mr. Buka Kiari. Thank you here in Lagos for joining us on this discussion. Now, after 8 weeks of recess, the House of Representatives is resuming plenary today amidst crucial bills awaiting deliberations. However, in the last couple of weeks, there have been some pockets of activities by subcommittees in the House of Representatives. With the resumption of plenary, it's expected to see full legislative duties that would impact on good governance. We join our correspondent, Terry Kumi, who is at the National Assembly, for more details.
Well, hello, Millicent. So yes, the House of Representatives has now resumed after about 8 weeks of recess. There were insinuations that the House might postpone its resumption date to the 24th so as to resume on the same day as the Senate, but that isn't the case. We are here, and we understand that it might be difficult to tell whether or not they will be able to delve into matters in the order paper, and that's because of the number of issues that have happened or activities that took place while the House was on recess. So we expect that when it's time for matters of urgent public importance, most of these issues will be raised. So it will be a very busy day for the House of Representatives. And let's also draw your attention to one thing. The National Assembly repeatedly has asked the executive to submit the budget either at the end of September or the first week of October. This is almost the end of September. So we're looking to see how possible that will happen, if that will even be possible between now and October. The insistence of the National Assembly to have the budget submitted at that time is to enable them at least pass the budget before the end of the year. It's back to you.
Many thanks, Terry, for that. South Africa has tendered its apologies to Nigeria over the xenophobic attacks on Nigerians living in the country. A special envoy of the South African president, Mr. Jeff Radebe, conveyed the apologies in a letter delivered to President Muhammadu Buhari at the State House in Abuja. The envoy says the attacks provide an opportunity for African leaders to work towards reducing unemployment, creating equality on the continent.
We met a short while ago with His Excellency President Buhari, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, to convey our President Ramaphosa's sincerest apologies about the incidents that have recently transpired in South Africa. Those incidents do not represent what we stand for as a constitutional democracy in South Africa, and the President has apologized for these incidents. And he has also instructed law enforcement agencies to leave no stone unturned, that all those involved must be brought to book so that the rule of law must prevail in South Africa. He also conveyed his fond memories of ensuring that both Nigeria and South Africa must continue to play a critical role in the rebuilding of Africa to attain the Agenda 2063, the Africa that we want. We have also recalled with very fond memories the historical ties that exist between Nigeria and South Africa. During the dark days of apartheid, we always knew that the Nigerian people and their government always stood behind our leaders who were fighting against the obnoxious system of apartheid. There is a binational commission between South Africa and Nigeria, and on the 3rd of October, during President Buhari's state visit to South Africa, there'll be detailed discussions that are going to be held there. I do understand that this issue of compensation restitution is part of the agenda items in the draft that the Nigerian government has presented to South Africa.
And let's quickly bring you from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, as it briefs the media, Nigeria's participation in the 74th United Nations General Assembly, ONGA, holding in New York, that the President Muhammadu Buhari, will be number 5 on the list of presidents to address the Assembly, and will use the opportunity to articulate, of course, the priorities of the Nigerian government along events to be organized by Nigeria will include the SDG intervention, promotion of international cooperation to tackle illicit cash flows and recovery of stolen assets. The President will also be attending several high-level meetings there as well. And that's how we're up on the program. Thank you for watching. I'm Millicent Walker.